back with another haircut for a man. It can be for a teenager or a young boy, really any age that you choose. This time, instead of using scissors for the whole haircut, I'm going to use scissors on top and show you how to texture just a little bit with what you have. And I'm going to use clippers and show you how those work as well if you have some at home. I mentioned last night, if you don't and you happen to have a pair of pet clippers, I know that sounds crazy, but you can clean them really, really good and use those as well because they're the same. I'm going to be using some attachments, and the attachment I use mostly around here is a number 4, and then I'll do a 5 or a 6 to fade it into the top. So if you want your hair, or the guy wants his hair a little bit shorter, I mean, some use bare razor, which would be very close to the scalp, but then as you move up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's quite a few to go from. You decide what length you want in through here. Now, this haircut can be done probably 50 different ways. You can do a fade where you leave this really long, or you can do a whole buzz cut and you can do it all the same length. What we're going to do today is we're going to cut this shorter and then fade it up just enough so that it goes into the top part that he likes to style real textured. So I'm going to get started, and then, like I said, you're welcome to message me and ask any questions, and I'm happy to help for anything that would help your guy's haircut. So here we go. Here comes the number 4, and you just attach it on. And we're going to do the same thing as with the man's haircut. It's real important you start around the perimeter and you get your guideline for what you want. I'm going to be stopping about here, which, looking from the side, it's a little higher than his eyebrow, and that's where I'm going to stop. Now, there are men out there that want to do crew cuts that go real high up, and then they do the flat top, and that's done similar on the sides, just different on the top. So starting with the 4, I'm going to start from the very side, and then I'm just going to kind of have an imaginary hairline. A lot of times you can, if the hair is long enough on top, you can fold the hair back and use your finger as a guideline. My son had a haircut not too long ago, so I'm not going to be taking a whole lot off. I'm just kind of showing you the steps to be able to do what you want to do. Now, this isn't necessarily the time to cut the length on the bottom. We'll go back and do that after. And like I said, I'm using a 4 because he likes a little bit of hair where you can, you know, still feel it between the fingers, not necessarily all the way to the scalp. And then you just kind of overlap. I know this sounds silly, but it's kind of almost like mowing a lawn. When you go up, when you come back the second time, you overlap and get a little bit of the first all the way around, just so that you're able to get all of the hair. This is a simple haircut. It goes really quick. Pretty much we've gotten the sides done exactly the way he wants it. Now, if you start with long hair, you're gonna see a lot more hair fall off. But I kind of always like to do the guideline area first. So I actually stop right here, and I grab my little set of clippers that I used in the previous haircut, and I'm going to go around and make the perimeter exactly the way he likes it. So I'm going to come down. I'm only going to bring up the sideburns a little bit because they're about where he likes them to be. And I'm going to go around the ear. Now, I'm using my little clippers. If you have one of those kits, a little set of clippers also come in that kit, or you can use the big ones as well. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of length off here. It's a little bit longer in the back than what he normally likes to keep it, so I'm going to comb it down. Now, you may notice I did not wet the hair before I use the clippers. For me, everybody's technique is different, but for me, I have found when you're using the clippers, especially the big ones on the back and side, it just seems to work better on dry hair and not necessarily wet hair. So that's why I'm trying to kind of complete this area first before I start on top, where I will be wetting it, because we're going to keep it a little longer. So here again, I'm going to pull the ear back, and I'm going to just, as you see, I'm not taking a whole lot off. I'm just kind of walking through the steps of it and cleaning up the area on the neck. A lot of times in between haircuts, it's good to use the clippers on the neck just to kind of give it a fresh look until the next haircut. And then I'm going to come around. Now, sometimes because of men shaving, it's just regular and normal for them to always just shave up to where they like their sideburns. But if you're doing a young boy or maybe even a teenager, I mean, you usually are the one to kind of guide where the sideburns go. So I'm going to turn that off now. And then I'm just going to go back one more time with my clippers to catch any area that maybe I left off, just around the bottom. Now, one thing that I'm going to add that's real important is some people like their very bottom to be squared off. Some like it to be curved. Again, there's no right or wrong. It's based on what you want. Now I'm going to go ahead and change my clipper size to a 5, which I'm going to go up a little bit for the reason that I want to try to fade the hair. And there we go. And this is when you turn your clippers horizontal and you come in with a bigger clipper size to just be able to kind of do a little blending. Now we could get really detailed on some haircuts and do all kinds of crazy things, but this is pretty well a basic haircut. Now I'm going up here because I'm fading it into the longer part on top. Then I'm going to turn my clippers and I'm going to go this way. And all I'm doing is blending the shorter part with the longer part before I pull out my scissors. Now, depending on the way the hair lays, some people have a lot of coarse hair, a lot of thick hair, and if that's the case, sometimes you have to go up a little further in the back just to make sure that's not sticking out too much and it lays nice when you're done. Okay, so that really kind of completes the clippered area that I wanted to show y'all. Now I'm going to pick up my scissors, and I have professional scissors that I use, but again, you can use the scissors from your home or that have come in your clipper kit, and they will work just as well. So you just improvise during this time with what you can do to keep everybody looking nice and sharp, and Easter's coming up and everybody likes to have a nice fresh hairstyle. So now I'm going to come around to the front. Now his hair here, because we don't want it to be too short, again, it's the style that we're aiming for, I'm going to hold it down, but I do something very different for this style. I take my scissors and I go at this angle rather than going straight across. And what this does, you can go how short you want it to be, but it gives it that kind of feathered, wispy look when he puts mousse in it at the end to style, and it doesn't have that bowl cut look. So this, what I'm doing here is I'm taking the shortest part here and I'm taking the longest part here, and I just blend it together like this, just to be able to have the length in front that he wants. I always think about, yes, it's nice when the hair is all styled and great, but if you're out in the wind and rain, what happens when your hair falls down? Does it look all zigzaggedy, or do you have pretty much a nice line there? So that's where we're going to start there. Now coming around here, we're going to do, on the first men's haircut, if you got to see that, I decided what length I wanted. And what I did is I took the very front and I went down the middle and I just kind of start cutting the length that I'm aiming for. Now up here, you kind of want to think about yourself following the shape of the head. Now I went like this here because this is where it's starting to come down. Right about here, it should be completely horizontal. So see that little bit that I'm taking off? What I'm doing is I'm going from here to here and taking off what's grown in between time, and I'm going to work my way all the way down. I'm almost making his hair look like a mohawk. I'm going down the middle. It's not going to end up looking like a mohawk, but I'm just saying that's kind of what you want to do. Once you start from the beginning, you go all the way across. Now I'm going to scoot over a little bit and I'm going to pick up some of the hair that I just cut and I'm going to grab new hair. So I know this isn't a lot of hair to be cutting for you to really get the full effect, but I just really wanted to get these steps out there for you guys. I know everybody's wondering what they're going to do since they can't go in to see their personal hairstylist or barber, who will be gladly waiting for you to see you here in the near future, hopefully. But in the meantime, let's see what we can do to get everybody by. So really, again, all I'm doing is I'm just going horizontal across. Now he has really thick hair. And so I have some thinning shears that I'm going to use when I'm done. That doesn't mean that you have to. And again, many people do not even need that in their hair. Their hair is too thin and it would not even work to use thinning shears. But I'm going to show you a technique that you can use your scissors if you don't have thinning shears, kind of like in the front that we did. I'm going to come around and pick up where we left off on this side. So I'm going to start with the middle and grab a little on his right side. And I'm just, you know, I'm only cutting probably in 1/2 inch, but it's only been a week or two or so that he's had a haircut. So it's not overgrown by any means. And I will say, once you get that first final haircut, and even now, if you do it, it'll be so much easier to keep up because you kind of have a guideline. You just go to it and you take a little bit here and a little bit there. And the more often you do it, it won't be so hard to do a full-blown haircut. So now that I've done that, I'm going to come along to the side and I'm going to raise my comb and I'm going to cut where it's been clipped and where I want my length to be and cut off the middle. This too helps kind of fade from the short up to the longer part. And I'm going to go all the way around his head just to make sure, like I said in the other, I just kind of cross my T's and dot my I's a couple times, making sure it's nice and even. You can always go back and you can cut more if you'd like, but at least doing it this way, it gives a chance the person to look in the mirror when you're done for the first time, and you kind of call it a pre-trial thing. You look and decide, do I want more off? Do I like it the way it is? Or do I want to keep it just like that? So that's about the length we're aiming for. Now, I'm just going to kind of show you. Sometimes you'll put your hands through it or you'll comb it different ways and you'll see a little piece stick up that shouldn't be there. Then it's fine. Just go ahead and clip that portion off. Now I'm going to double check it by going down the middle of his head horizontal, and I'm going to cut this part right in the middle that you see that's sticking up with just a little bitty peak there. We're going to just make that even. And even when you cut it and it's completely straight across and you'd think, wow, it's perfect. It's amazing how when time goes by and you go back to the hair, you've got some longer than the other. So not all of the hair grows at one time the exact same length. So that's that's normal. Okay, so now that I feel like everything's even and it all blends well, there's nothing that shows a great division there, I'm going to grab my thinning shears. Now what thinning shears are, they don't cut the whole hair, they just cut little portions. So what it does, it takes out some of the thickness that sometimes a client or one of your children or husband wants to get rid of. Some of that thickness, you can just feel it. So I kind of put my hands through here and feel for the areas that just seem a little more thick than others. And I go through and I go about halfway down and I just kind of give it a nice little cut. This also does good for texturizing when you want your hair, again, not to lay flat, but to stand up a little bit with some mousse or gel. There's all kinds of products and things you can use out there to help your hair do more of a styled look rather than a laid down, slick back, business-like look. That's not to say businessmen don't wear their hair like this too. It's a nice haircut, actually. It looks very, very handsome. All right, now what I want to show you, a lot of you will not have texturizing scissors at home. So if you want to do a little there and you feel brave enough to take a step up to something a little bit more harder, really all it is this simple. Just put your scissors going at an angle so that the hair isn't directly straight across, but it has a little bit of texture in it, and that is something that you can do after you've given the haircut. So I'm gonna just wet it a little bit to kind of just make sure that I have it all even. And then I'm gonna comb through, get all the little extra pieces out. Of course, they'll always wanna wash their hair after, especially if you do a lot of texturizing. We go in and find that there's just a lot of little hairs left over. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of mousse, and all this does is help hold the hair in place a little bit more than just when it dries. If your hair's real thick and real coarse, what happens a lot of times is it dries and some will say, oh, it just feels kind of fuzzy. But if you put some mousse or styling gel in it or something, not only does it help it go where you want it to go, but it helps it stay in that place as well. So I hope that's helped. It's a fun haircut. It's easy to do. You can leave it long, short. There's no right or wrong. And he's done now for at least 3 weeks. So you have a great evening and let me know if I can help any other way. Bye.